All right, welcome to Weathering the Kitchen. Yes, it's where weather meets baking and cooking. This is something I've been wanting to try to do for quite some time. Bring you into my kitchen and share with you what I am cooking or baking. This weekend, got my tea in my hand. It is finally feeling like fall outside, looking like it as well. And I know we think about apple picking, but also pumpkin picking for this time of year. And as we go deeper towards Thanksgiving and Christmas, we start thinking about those pumpkin pies, the pumpkin bread, pumpkin cheesecake, pumpkin whatever. And I always make homemade pumpkin puree every single year for those recipes because those canned pumpkin puree that you get in the store, it can taste kind of metallic and I don't like the texture of it and you don't really know what's in it. So I'm gonna make homemade pumpkin puree today. And when you think about pumpkins, you think about the jack-o'-lanterns, those big orange ones. Those you don't eat because when you break them open, they're very stringy inside and there's a lot of seeds. You gotta get the right pumpkin to make pumpkin puree, and a lot of times those pumpkins are not beautiful. They're actually a form of squash. What I'm using today is this. Yes, it looks kind of gross here with all these little bubbles on the outside that kind of look like peanuts. This is known as a peanut pumpkin because they have these peanut-like structures on the exterior skin of this pumpkin. So what this actually is excess sugar that is being extracted out of the flesh of the pumpkin on the outside. Sugar is a good thing when you're talking about baking. So this is what I'm gonna use here today, but you can also use a blue Hubbard squash. They also have some of those smaller orange pumpkins that are called pie pumpkins. So you wanna make sure, first things first, you get a pumpkin that is actually going to taste good when you cook it and puree it. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna do here is open up the pumpkin. Now this does look like it's a monstrosity and it's gonna be hard to open, but if you actually have a really good knife, it's really not that difficult. So you basically wanna slice it down the middle and you can see how easy that goes in. Obviously be very careful as you're cutting this pumpkin open, but it will easily slide right down the middle and then it's easy just to turn over and completely go all the way around, just like this. And then once it opens, you'll see on the inside of it here that there's a lot of flesh on the exterior of this pumpkin. All of this is going to be edible, and what we're gonna do next is basically carve out any of the stringiness that you have in the middle or the seeds. And these kind of pumpkins, you can actually keep the seeds either to roast or you dry them out and then you can use them next year in your garden to plant peanut pumpkins in your own backyard. All right, so you want to get a big spoon here and it's easy as just digging out the middle of this pumpkin here and just placing all the excess seeds and again, any of that stringy texture that you have in the middle here, because you want to get rid of that. That's not gonna puree up very well or taste very well. All right, so I cleaned this baby out. Take a look how beautiful that looks. Yes! Okay, so it's as easy as that. The only other step you're gonna have to do is get a little bit of kosher salt that you're gonna sprinkle on the flesh of the pumpkin prior to baking it, so it actually can extract a little bit of the water inside of that pumpkin. Okay, so what you're gonna do next, after you sprinkle it with that kosher salt, you're gonna put it on a parchment-lined baking sheet, flesh side down. You want it flesh side down. That's the way it's gonna cook, so if it extracts any of the water, it will release underneath that pumpkin pretty easily. We've got some friends here in the kitchen with me. Come on, guys, come over here. You wanna say hi to everyone? Say hi! You can't see Hannah. Ah! What are we cooking today?
Pumpkin.
Pumpkin, we're making pumpkin puree. So again, you're gonna put it in a 400-degree oven for roughly 35-45 minutes. One side is bigger than the other, so that will cook quicker, and you're gonna use a knife. You can even use the knife that you use to open up the pumpkin to push it through, and when it easily passes through in and out of the pumpkin, it's tender enough to be done to go to the next step. So I guess we'll put it in the oven, guys, huh? What do you think? Yeah? So my helpers are gonna open the oven. You be very careful because that's hot, so open it up for Daddy. All the way. All right, so that oven is nice and hot at 400 degrees. And we are gonna put these pumpkins right in the oven. All right, and they are going to cook.
How long?
For about 35, 40 minutes. All right, so now it's time to test to see if these are done. And it's as simple as taking your knife and then just inserting it. And if it goes in nice and smooth with very little effort, then you know this pumpkin is completely cooked through and ready to be pureed. So these bad puppies are ready to cool off. Now that the pumpkins are done, basically we have to let them cool off 30 to 60 minutes depending on the size. You don't want to put it inside a food processor really hot. Number one, you're going to burn your hands, and number two, it's going to make quite a mess. So definitely need to let them cool off. So we're going to take it off of the parchment paper and the baking sheet, and you're going to place it either on a very sturdy cooling rack, or what I have here is a simple cutting board. All right, take a look at the steam coming off of these pumpkins, and notice the interior is that beautiful orange color. The exterior, that's darker. That's almost like caramelization, as if you were to caramelize sugar. That's all the sugars you can see, especially on the exterior where you have those peanut-like growths that are growing on the outside of the pumpkin. But once the steam stops, then it is cool enough to handle and put in a food processor and make what? Pumpkin puree! All right, so your final step to making that yummy, creamy puree is you're gonna need a large spoon, you're going to need a measuring cup that measures 1 cup, and also food processor along with small sandwich bags and a larger Ziploc bag that is freezer safe. All right, so I got my spoon, I got my helper right here. You wanna bend down and say hi? Mr. Jacob. So you're basically just gonna take your spoon and notice how easy it is to scrape out the center of the pumpkin, and then you're gonna place it right in. Yes, you can do it. You place it right into the food processor. There you go, buddy. Big spoonful. Okay, so you do a few big spoonfuls, little small batches at a time, placing it right in there, and then it's the next step. Jacob, should we turn it on?
Yeah.
So then you place the top on.
Can I turn it on?
Yes, you can.
Turn it on.
Right here, press this button. And there it goes, mixing it up, making it into a yummy, smooth pumpkin puree. All right, so that's all done. And if you take it out, you can see how beautiful color that is, all natural, all from a peanut pumpkin. So now we're gonna take this and put it, you wanna help me, buddy? Pour it right into the bowl. Okay, and we're gonna keep doing this until we completely puree all of the pumpkins. We'll be going back and forth.
Bye-bye.
Well, not bye-bye just yet. Okay, so now we have a big bowl of puree, and we're gonna use our handy tool, show everybody, the measuring cup, and we're gonna put 1 cup in every little sandwich baggie, right until we have everything in sandwich bags, and then we're gonna place it in the final big pumpkin puree bag that we can put in the freezer for up to 3 months in the freezer, or if you just wanna put it in the fridge, that will last about a week. All right, so we continue to put the pumpkin puree in baggies with 1 cup. You just dropped it right in and made a bit of a mess of the bag, but we can clean that up. Right, buddy?
Yeah.
All right, let me see. Can you hold this bag for me then? Can you open up the bag?
Oh.
Go ahead, open the bag up.
You got some puree.
Okay, so this beautiful, creamy puree. Got 1 whole cup. And then we put it all right in the baggie.
Just don't get any on my hand.
I won't.
You got a little mess right there.
That's okay. We can. Messes are good. That means you're actually working in the kitchen. Okay, so we have all of our puree in little sandwich bags now, like this. We've cleaned it really nice. I got 13 cups. 13 cups of puree out of that 1 pumpkin, and now we're gonna split it up into our larger Ziploc bags that are freezer safe.
So
and we can, yep, go ahead.
This row.
Okay, so we're gonna put all of these.
All of these rows.
Yep, they're all inside our nice bag that is labeled with the date on there, knowing we can keep it for 3 months in the freezer. You want to get as much air as you can out of the bags so you don't get too much crystallization in the freezer, and then we will Ziploc this, and that is ready to go in the freezer. All right, and that is about it. We have our two heavy bags here that are ready for the freezer, and it's pretty amazing what we started with. What did we start with?
Just a regular peanut pumpkin.
Yeah, how big? Like this big peanut pumpkin becomes this in a matter of a few steps, right? And this is a good example of do not judge a book by its cover. It's what's inside that matters the most. Something as ugly as this turns into something as beautiful and yummy as that. And now we can make our pumpkin pies, pumpkin brownies, pumpkin cake, pumpkin cheesecake, pumpkin cookies, pumpkin anything. And why I like it in 1 cup bags is because a lot of recipes will ask for 1 cup of pumpkin puree or 2 cups of pumpkin puree. And it's easy as that. You just defrost it and you're ready to go. So thank you so much, buddy, for helping me. And thank you for weathering the kitchen with us. And until next time, cook up a storm, right? Cook up a storm.
Bye.
Bye.
Go.
All right, the final step to making a very creamy puree is a spoon, also a measuring cup for 1 cup, and a food processor along with some small baggies and also a larger Ziploc bag that will be freezer. Let me do that one more time.
First, I'm going to see how that would work.
Archie, sit down, please. Thank you.
1, 2, 3, go.
Okay, now that the pumpkin